So air walking is actually so much harder than I thought. And at one point, God just told me to stop.
Stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, in the park, I was looking at the video I recorded, and I was thinking, this doesn't really look like I'm walking on air. Maybe it's a camera angle. Let me switch camera angle. And right at the moment when I'm trying to move, I saw the grocery shop named Quick Stop. God was like, quick stop, bro. Before it's too late. And man, my heart was really hardened at that time, and I didn't obey. So I stayed for a bit more, and I walked back, and rain started pouring down. And I just knew that if I obeyed immediately, I would be in my room right now, and I'll be dry. A very blue, cloudless sky above Queen Mary University. It's my first year here doing biochemistry. I think it's alright. What's important though is that God has used my major to lead me to my faith. I still remember that the first ever Bible study I did here was actually called Scientific Proofs of Why the Bible is True. There was one part where it talked about in the book of Job, God was humbling Job, and he asked him, have you journeyed to the springs of the sea? And they told me it's connected to something called the hydrothermal vent. And at that moment I was shocked, because the very morning before that Bible study, I was in a lecture and the professor talked about the hydrothermal vent, which is hypothetically the origin of life, where organic molecules was first synthesized from inorganics. And it kind of is a spring under the sea. It's not exactly the same concept, but it's good enough.
This is the basis of quantum mechanics. Quite a simple looking mathematical model, and it treats the electrons, rather than being discrete particles, but now as a wave. And it's a way, by solving the Schrödinger equation, to describe how those waves move or exist.
We received intelligence this week that our professor was going to sing in a choir at church on Saturday. And I was again shocked, because from what I knew, he's probably an atheist. He has recommended books that are atheist and all that, so I just didn't understand how he could be in a church choir. But it turns out that he's just in a choir that happens to be performing at church this Saturday.
Move.
Many people think that we can't have both science and religion, but sometimes people just don't really know about the other perspective. Like, we know God created everything in a week, but it also says that to the Lord 1,000 years is like a day. And people say evolution, evolution, evolution. Every living thing, even the ideas in our mind, they came from evolution. And for example, we have the idea of justice because we needed at some point to be united, and it gave us a better chance to survive against other species. And I just thought, why can't we have both? Because why can't God work through this way, through evolution, to put eternity, to set eternity in our heart? Why can't he? And I'm not saying that Christianity and science are completely compatible, because sometimes we're just not talking about the same things. And I don't want to stretch the truth, because other people can do it as well. For example, in this part of the lecture, the lecturer is talking about how the atom is mostly empty space. So Buddhists, now knowing this, they say that the notion of emptiness in their doctrine, it's a prophecy about the science discovery of the atom being empty. So in this lecture, it actually got me thinking about the validity of the notion of emptiness in Buddhism. And while I was wondering about it, I heard the professor say this.
Yeah, that is not the reality, no. So, you'd expect...
So Buddhism says that everything is empty. Everything we do is empty. It's not meaningful. And I'm just very happy that that's not the reality.
Empty. 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 Empty.
So yeah, I still have a lot of things that I'd like to talk about, like how I was in a high school called Daystar Academy, and after learning from the Bible, I learned that people think that Daystar is another name for Lucifer, and Lucifer is another name for the devil. And I also got a protein in my first coursework project, a protein called luciferase, which start with like Lucifer. Like the Hebrew word morning star, day star was translated into Latin into Lucifer, meaning the light bearer. And this word appeared in Isaiah chapter 14 in a prophecy about a king. And I'm not quite sure about the interpretation of this being like a representation of Satan's downfall. Because I've heard that many things were added into the narrative later, like the story where the devil was jealous of Jesus and people who received power through Jesus, so he went down to hell. That's like not in the Bible, and that lore, that story of the devil just does not exist. But I still think like God is trying to show me something by bringing the word Daystar and Lucifer into my life, like as a warning against pride and pride in knowledge, like to not put learning knowledge above God's love. Because one thing I realized was that Jesus told us to count the cost before becoming disciples, right? And I used to think that being ridiculed when you start to build a tower but you can't finish is like you don't earn worldly success while being a disciple. And I realized that that's not the case. It's just really that you'll be ridiculed if you first appear very passionate for Christ outwardly, but then you fall away. That's when you will be ridiculed. So on a final note, I don't really think the devil has his own personal lore like Jesus, but he's a tempter and he is an accuser. And when he tempts, he makes you think that life is just a little bit harder than it really is, and God is just a tiny bit more strict than he is. Like he doesn't even allow you to touch the fruit. And when he accuses you, he accuses you to have sinned just a little bit more than you actually did, a little bit more than God's grace can cover. And when we lean on our own understanding of things, our own interpretation, we can actually fall into the accusations. And because Satan runs this world, there are so many temptations and accusations in this world, and sometimes it's definitely weighing us down. But I think to scriptures where it says he will refresh my soul and he will renew my strength if I have my hope in him. So it's not like we'll have superpower to be always energized, to be always fired up, but when we are down, when we are tired, if we have our heart in the right place, we will come back again, like the way he did. So yeah, I really wanted to talk about these things, but unfortunately I ran out of clips.